Now, 1 foot off center.
And now it's all gonna blow your mind.
Rick Maddison here, 1 foot off center. I have esteemed guests here with me today, as always.
Yes.
Lead pastor,
Yes.
Trinity Baptist, Scott Lanigan. We have Jeff Cox, Sir Insurance, Simply Benefits, Mattiussi, consultant to the province, to the stars, to everyone else. Okay. I'm Rick Maddison, and again, we have good friends at Soil to Sod, landscapers. Interesting thing about Soil to Sod is the owner actually handles the shovel. He works on site all day, every day. Unbelievable, hardest working guy you've ever met. Hire Soil to Sod. And we also have another sponsor.
It's amazing.
She's vivacious, lovely, amazing. She's also good at real estate, Jennifer Maddison from Remax. Thank you, Jennifer, for all you do. Okay, so let's go into, we have a lot of different subjects today. One is we have this thing called a dog park. Okay? Let's talk about this dog park. It's incredible. Have you been by it, Ron?
No.
Okay. It's beautiful.
Yes.
And it kind of reminds me, so the initial cost was a $750 and now it's grown to 1.2, and it's spectacular. Like, I mean, I remember thinking, I wonder if the dogs recognize how nice it is. So, which leads us into another conversation about DCCs, about park acquisition and development. But let's start at first with the price tag of 1.2 for a dog park. Both sides of the issue, for sure. Lead pastor.
Yes.
Lead pastor, Trinity.
I think this dog park, correct me if I'm wrong, is a little different because it's made for accessible needs. So individuals that cannot go to other dog parks in the city have an opportunity to go to this dog park. So I think that's why this one is designed specific to that. Now, if you go to the H2O dog park, it's like 2 rocks and some sawdust. That's basically what it is at the dog park there. And they have a big one and little section, and it's all caged in. And my dog was like, "Yeah, I'm out." Like, I just hated it. Like, I took her there a few times and she couldn't even stand it. And so that said, I'm not sure I would take her there and she'd go, "Wow, this one's golden." I actually think this one has apparatus for the dogs. It's got different, it's got pathways, it's got all these different areas.
There's tricks. There's things they can do.
It's pretty amazing to see that thing. So I don't disagree with you. It's phenomenal. I go, yeah, is it 1.2 million phenomenal, or is it that's a little ridiculous phenomenal? And I lean towards, my goodness, I'm all for creating accessible opportunities for individuals that can't go to normal spaces. But at what point does it become a little ridiculous that you step back for a moment and go, hey, this maybe had best intentions, but the execution was off, and instead of just pouring more money into it, do you maybe accommodate your expectations of what it's supposed to be?
I love it when you smirk like that, because I know here it comes. Okay, here it comes. Mr. Jeff Cox, everyone.
So, my good friend Wayne Dorman, who has since passed away this year, who ran Dogsies, I can still hear his South African accent telling me that dog parks are nightclubs. And you should never go there. Dogs should never go to dog parks because they're nightclubs. That was Wayne's.
Yes.
That was Wayne's thing.
Yes.
But I get the gist of what we're asking. I don't have the facts to say if that park is worth $1 million. If there are needs being met as part of the charter of this country, then I'm saying there are times when money needs to be spent, and I'm okay with that. It does seem excessive, considering that you can probably buy my house for the same amount of money. So you could turn my house into a dog park if you wanted. It leads to a bigger question, though. So I'm a dog owner, obviously. Have had as many as 3 in the last couple of years, and right now have 1. Although I'm sure there's another one coming soon. I would rather see a change to the way we run the city around dogs, but this is a pro dog standpoint. So I fully recognize that. Dogs have been allowed on patios this summer. I think it has been welcomed. I see it all the time. I enjoy it. I actually probably don't utilize that as much as we should or could. But I think if you go to other parts of the world, we don't have the restrictions that we have on dogs. For me, it's the frustration, and I watched this happen as early as last week in Strathcona Beach. I watched a mom with 2 kids who had brought her dog, who was on a leash, attached to the wagon, causing no harm while her kids played on the playground, and she was asked by bylaw to leave because that's a dog restricted park, as most of them are. So the dog can't sit there, and I'm like, to me, that's where I would like to see the focus go around dogs. I don't know that we should be spending millions of dollars on $1.2 million on a dog park. I do question some of the things as you go into it. Like, there was a bunch of money that went into archaeology findings, and I was trying to get a definition of what that is, and maybe Ron can comment, you can comment, because that's where I got miffed. Like, what part were we doing archaeology work in to ensure that we could put a dog park there? And then that's where I started to question bureaucracy and go, okay, what is the play?
Well, our resident paleontologist, Mr. Mattiussi.
Hey, yeah, it's I kind of agree with Jeff on the as usual on the I can't judge. I don't know the estimates. I don't know all the components. I know we were severely criticized 8 years ago for spending $1 million on the washrooms in City Park.
Yeah. I might have read some of those articles.
Yeah, Ron Seymour. Don't look him up. But the reality was, first off, they also include all the electrical for the food. So a lot of times you don't really know what's going in because they actually bundled a lot of other stuff. The actual, washrooms are a component. And washrooms in public parks, as somebody said, put 1 million people through your house using the bathroom, see what it looks like, right? That bathroom's really got to take abuse now for the next 20 years. So I don't know what's going on in this dog park. It does seem excessive, and then there is that balance. We always fighting that balance. I mean, the rule, even 15 years ago, was no dogs in the park, period. And Joe Carino was pretty funny when they kind of started to loosen it. And he says, here's the problem with loosening it. He says, if you have no dogs in the park, then you can let people walking with well-behaved dogs on leashes, and you're okay. But if you say there's dogs allowed, now it's an off-leash park automatically. and because people always go a few extra steps, and that's just human nature.
But it is, Ron, to your point, though, that is the challenge, because I've also seen this is it is always the few that ruin it for the many.
Absolutely.
And that is the challenge with dogs. I as a dog owner and someone who puts a lot of time and effort into dogs, that is always it. You get to a park and there's a dog off leash, and all of a sudden either attack of another dog or not a severe attack, but an attack of a young child, and you just go, and that's it. And then it is over. And you made one more point I want to bring up. Criticism of, because this came up, I was walking down the street a couple weeks ago and got somewhat lambasted for this podcast by someone that works for the city.
That's one of the listeners. We appreciate your lambasting, by the way, viewers and listeners.
But this is democracy, and that seems to have been lost. So listen, you build $1 million washrooms, and then people stand up in the public and say, I want to question that, and then you got to justify it. This is how democracy works.
Absolutely.
This is part of it, and to live in a sustainable long-term democracy, we have to come on here and question these things. You don't have to listen, but it's part of it. This is the way it works. You build $1 million washroom and I say, I don't agree with it. And then you say, well, I got to build a washroom that sustains 20 years and I got to sustain people that are going to abuse it like it's not their own home. And I go, yeah, you're probably right. There's probably more there. And I still say it's still a lot of money. That is how democracy has to happen. We have to focus on that too. I know I'm way off topic. But
No, it's... We go off topic all the time. We're 1 foot off center.
But the other part is you also learn as you're putting together these budgets, it is a democracy and there's all kinds of people lobbying for all kinds of things. And you're always balancing, right? And so, what one person says is a horrible thing. And just having a dog park, some people would judge why we'd be spending money on that at all. And then other people are saying, well, the ones you have are crappy, actually. It's look like you found the most underutilized crappy land the city has and put a fence around and said, oh, it's our dog park. So,
Well, I know
that's
the cat
reality.
people are up in arms.
They
right?
are. They're really upset. I've been waiting all summer to hear Jeff say I'm pro dog. I thought that was really great. The other piece on that, though, and we won't belabor the point, was in one of the articles it said the city had commented that part of town, Harvey and Abbott, was not aesthetic for people coming in to the town, and so they were trying to elevate that. And it just made me pause to go. So a dog park was the choice for an aesthetic appeal coming into the city of Kelowna, and so that's the one piece that still is a little bit questioning in my head.
Here's what I could use to justify it. Those demographics. And if you put a lot of high-rise buildings and whatever, then more people are going to be walking dogs and less green space. And I'd rather them I'm not sure about the cost, and I don't know. But I'd rather have them in an area designated for that than pooping all over the city,
Right.
in every boulevard. Yeah.
So the other part of this, which is the park acquisition, park development fees that are coming down the line, and they're quite substantial. I was just texted, I think it's 12 to 15 grand on a single detached. Now don't quote me, but it's high is what it is. And so we went through a building boom for about 6-7 years. I think it's slowing down now. That budget or that fund is now getting really quite large because we have a lot of towers and we have per door. You start to do the quick math, and that account is now overflowing with money, so they have to create these parks and build out these parks. And I know, Ron, back in the day, you were part of that conversation, is we have all these parks, but we can't really maintain them or do anything with them.
Put equipment in, yeah.
Yeah. So the question is now, in this world of affordable housing, do we revisit that parks development cost charge and say, okay, we should probably back this off because we have a lot of money, and it seems like, and again, I don't know, do we have a plan for the money? Like, the money continues to come in. Is there a projection or a budget or any of that sort? So I'll go back to you on this. Is it time to revisit that parks acquisition development cost charge for developers?
I think it's time to revisit all those things. I think one of the biggest problems we have, it's not just any one. I mean, that one is the newest kid on the block. Those charges have been around a long time, but they were always simple principle that new growth should pay for itself, that you don't want to tax the little old lady on Richter Street who bought her house 50 years ago, and now you're living in the Upper Mission and roads have to be built up there. So the general taxpayer shouldn't be carrying the burden, right? So that was the basic principle. The Parks DCC was debated in my time here, a few times under Walter Gray's tenure. It was debated, but it was always turned down because that was a bit of the fear and ways we got around. The biggest criticism of new neighborhoods, like at the time Wilden, was people would move in and say, well, we have a park here, we have no equipment. When's the city building the park? And we'd say, well, there's X amount of money every year, and one day we'll get there. And, people were upset. But other developers, I'm thinking of Kettle Valley, when they developed Kettle Valley, the developer built the playground, or at least shared the cost of the playground. He didn't build it, he shared the cost. Because he saw it as an amenity. It was part of the deal. You have a playground when you get here. So I think there are creative solutions, but I really do think I did a couple of projects, and I really think it's time that we have to look at sort of all these charges. And Kelowna, in the whole scheme of things, is nothing compared to what you see in the Lower Mainland. It was eye-opening for me what communities charge for amenity fees and on top of the development cost charges. So I think all of them have to be looked at.
And I would obviously agree. My conservative nature says you have to be looking at costs all the time, and then where that acceptable cost is. But I will give a lot of credit to the redevelopment of City Park. I ride through City Park on a regular basis, not only path improvements, beach access improvements. This might be small. It may not people may not pay attention, but even the way you access the beach now, they've done a phenomenal job. So it's just not on and off. They've created kind of pathways and trails, and they've separated those things. That park is busy all the time with. And again, I think these are positive things with visible minorities, with families, with people enjoying themselves from all walks of life. The other piece for me, the city has done a good job reclaiming waterfront property and turning them into parks. Again, I think that's something that is a positive. That comes at a huge cost, but I think it's in the best interest of the taxpayers. I mean, obviously, there's a fine line to it, and I think, if you spent $6 or $7 or $10 million on a waterfront home and find out that you now have a beach access beside you didn't have when you bought the house, you would be extremely frustrated, especially if you paid that tax bill. And unfortunately, the way our streets are today, areas like that get abused, and things happen there that shouldn't happen. But that is just a symptom of a bigger problem we have that needs to be solved, and we've talked about that, and we'll continue to talk about that because it's not going away anytime soon. But taking back park land, like creating parks, doing what they're doing with access to the waterfront, it's hard to argue against it. It's money well spent, and it does really it serves the greater population, and I will continue to support that, despite the fact I know when they buy a property they've cut a well into 7-digit check to do it. Plus now we find out $1 million to build a dog park, and these are expensive things to undertake, but they have to be done.
Let that show that Jeff Cox just advocated for a taxation of sorts.
Again, this summer is bringing so many things,
so many surprises.
Side of the table. I ride my wife and I live kind of in the Lower Missionary, so we ride our bikes past Rotary and then Gyro and then Abbott Street. And you go through Rotary and it's Family Central. Gyro, you never want to put a swimsuit on because they're all under 25. And then you get to Abbott Street Park, and it's like, it's crickets over there. Mm-hmm. They're doing some road construction and parking's a bit more difficult, but it's unbelievable of how beautiful that space is, but it's underutilized. And now you don't quite have beach access there, but I agree with Jeff that people come to Kelowna for that experience. They want the park, they want the lakefront, they want to be able to enjoy it. But I think one of the downsides right now is there is a number of spaces. We were looking to try and do some activities this summer to plan for my organization, and we were trying to figure out, we wanted to do Wednesday night gatherings, invite a bunch of people to come hang out, barbecues, those type of things, but to find a park that had all the things and the elements we needed, from bathrooms to parking, etc., was very difficult. There's a very limited amount, and so to Ron's point and Jeff's point, we need to invest in those things to make them more viable for larger gatherings, smaller gatherings. And so you do require a playground, which other ones went behind the hospital. They're just putting in a brand new playground. So they are, I think the city's doing a great job, and I don't disagree. There needs to be an investment there, but as always, it just needs to be a balanced approach.
So at the gathering, if I was to go, do you have a structure with a tin roof above it? Because the lightning, I don't think will go.
I don't know, Rick. No one's bursting into flames yet.
So last.
That was the first.
Yeah, I know, right?
Last question is, we have 400 square feet place, has the same 32,000 DCCs as a 1,500, 1,800 square foot home. Again, I was just texted some information today. Very free-flowing show today. But you have the same cost on a DCC for a single door than you do for a much larger dwelling, which brings your cost per square foot much higher if you build a smaller space. So is that, when we're talking about reviewing DCCs, is that something the city needs to be mindful of? Because again, 400 square feet versus 1,800 or 1,500 square feet, same cost charges. Is that affordable housing and everything else? But what do you feel about, should we start playing with that? Should it be a sliding scale?
About 30 years ago, 25, Lindsay Webster, you may know Ken out there, he's a developer in town. came up with the same question, said, could there at least be a multiple breakdown of DCCs? Again, part of the problem with DCC is they're not intended to be a wealth tax. What they're intended to is, you could have an 850 square foot apartment if you drive on the roads, if you have plumbing, if you drink water, that impact. It's about infrastructure, and that's why the Parks DC is a little bit different. It was all about infrastructure, and so it was never a wealth tax. It was a unit drives on the road tax, or a unit uses water tax, more than it was a wealth tax.
Ron's conservative hat is so exciting.
Isn't this fun? Mr. Cox, why don't you weigh in?
Well, I would argue it the other way, right till you said that, and I'm like, that's a valid point, right? I would have said, yeah, it should be proportional, and gone into, let's do it by square foot, but Ron brings a valid point that it's not a wealth tax. This is not about how big or what you're building. It's about that if one car goes to that house and one car goes to that house, that road costs the same amount of money. In the park, you're not giving the people that are putting more money. That's your part of the park, right? Which is where the playground is, and you guys get the grass area. I mean, that's a very valid point that I would have 30 seconds ago said, yeah, maybe it's proportional. But Ron's right. Like, it can't be a wealth tax. I understand now when you say that why you got to look at it from a door perspective. Now, I will say this: should we be looking at all levels of bureaucracy in this country? For sure. I mean, there is, again, going off topic, but I am still blown away by the data last week that there's one manager at every 4 employees in Interior Health. Like, I almost fell backwards off my chair because it's not even 4; it's 3.6. And in the school district, it's 16. If you want to go to other public, and then there were others that fell in between. And I'm just like, that's what's got to change today, right? Is federally, provincially, and I'm going to say municipally, we've got to look around and go, we got too much fat in the middle right now. And if you want to cut DCC charges, that's you do it by getting rid of the overhead costs that are existing at multiple levels today, and it needs time to do it.
I think
I don't have anything to add except my good looks, Rick.
I want these two to argue more, but they're all getting along, so it's making for not a great show.
The summer changes so
to be
many
honest.
things.
Fire them all.
No, I think Ron's right. No, Jeff's got a great point. Like, what are you guys
Jeff's
doing?
almost wearing red shorts today too, which is amazing.
Okay, well, sadly, they're agreeing on everything, so that's great. This has been 1 Foot Off Center. Thanks again for watching and listening, and we'll be back probably, I don't know, a couple weeks, something like that. I might be wearing the same shirt, though. So